Hello, bookish friends. Welcome or welcome back. I'm Elizabeth. This is Reading Riley, where we like to read Riley, not take ourselves too seriously, and have some fun with books. And today is going to be an exciting adventure because we are exploring some new releases that will come out in 2022, and specifically in the first quarter of 2022.
Fuck it.
I've made a list that Denver stepped on and got all dirty because he has no respect for personal space, none whatsoever. So we're gonna go through these and I'm just gonna tell you about these books. They all release in January through March. So the first 3 months of 2022. They are mostly thrillers, but there's some speculative, some sci-fi, some horror mixed in there. Just stuff that specifically I am interested in based on what I've found. So I'm gonna tell them to you in order of their release date. But before we get into the books, if you enjoy this kind of content, if you are watching this video and you think, hey, I might want to hang around, if you would be so obliged, I would very much appreciate it if you could click that subscribe button. Just know that it really helps me out and I appreciate you. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's start off with the January releases. The first book that I want to talk about is The Maid by Nita Prose. I believe this is a mystery and we're following Molly Gray. The description makes it seem like she might be on the spectrum. So she relies on her grandmother a lot, and her grandma has given her this kind of code to live by about how to interpret social interactions. Her grand passes away and she is a maid in a hotel. So now she's on her own trying to navigate life. So she just throws herself into her work. But then one day she walks into this hotel room to clean it, and it's the hotel room of Charles Black, who is a really infamous and wealthy person, and she finds him dead in his bed. And from what I gather, it seems like she becomes the suspect of this. Maybe people think that she was the last one to have seen him, and it's supposed to be a locked room mystery. It's compared to Clue, and apparently this is supposed to be quite heartwarming as well. So yeah, sounds interesting. I like it. The next book I'm interested in is A Flicker in the Dark. This is a debut novel by Stacey Willingham. It's calling it a lyrical thriller, so I'm really not sure what that means. If her prose is a little bit on the lyrical side, or if this is tending towards literary, which I don't think it is based on the description. But this one is about Chloe Davis. When Chloe was 12 years old, there were a bunch of these 16-year-old girls that were going missing in her hometown in Louisiana. It was just this summer of girls going missing. By the end of the summer, her father is arrested, coined as the killer, as a serial killer. And there's also a second timeline where it's 20 years into the future, and we are following Chloe now as a psychologist in Baton Rouge. She's getting ready to get married. She feels like life is finally coming together, like she's got a grasp of her life and her surroundings. And then teenage girls start to go missing again. So we wonder if it's connected, and she ends up having to figure out what the hell's going on. And I think it probably has something to do with her dad. Maybe her dad wasn't actually the killer. Who knows? Oh, it's said to be for fans of Gillian Flynn and Karen Slaughter. Can we get a more perfect comparison? Like, hi, yes, please sign me up. Also, this has already been auctioned for a limited HBO series produced by Emma Stone. So this is gonna be a hit. Very excited for that. The next one is released on January 18th. It's called Real Easy by Marie Rutkowski. I think it's going to be like a feminist type thriller. It says it's an unexpectedly hopeful thriller set in a Midwestern strip club. So in 1999, Samantha she's danced for years. She doesn't really trust anybody. She kind of keeps herself separated from everyone at work. She's got her own issues going on. But she decides to take this other dancer under her wing and give her a drive home one night. Somebody ends up running them off the road, and then when the police get to the scene, there's only one body there. So that's all we know from that point. Then we have Georgia, who's another dancer. She is drawn into the investigation as she tries to assist the detective named Holly. And I guess the point of view shifts from a whole bunch of people, from the dancers to the detectives to the people in the club to the children, who I don't know who the children are, but I guess I'll find out when I read it. And it says, Rutkowski immerses us into a subculture that is all too often reduced to cliche. Gripping, deeply feminist, and character-driven, Real Easy spellbinds us and gets us to the heart of this timeless question: How do women live out their lives knowing that men can hurt them? Interesting. Interesting. The next book that I'm interested in January is called Devil House by John Darnielle. We're following Gage Chandler. He is a writer and an author. It says that his mother told him that he was descended from kings. I don't know what kind of relevance that has, but he is a true crime writer. And he had one really big success. It had a movie adaptation, all of the things. And then since then, his popularity has been dwindling and he's only just made enough to pay the bills, but living and writing nonetheless. He has this opportunity. He's offered this big break. He's to move into this house that is deemed the Devil House. Apparently something went down there in the 80s. People all assumed that it was the work of disaffected teens. He begins researching what's going on with enthusiasm, but then he starts to uncover some things that lead him to a puzzle that he never expected. It leads him back to the core of who he really is. So maybe that has something to do with the fact that his mother calls him a descendant of kings. I don't know if this has something to do with satanic panic because it has the 80s. It's called the Devil House. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to put pieces together here. But in any case, sounds really interesting. And I don't know if that is a thriller or if it's horror. It could be like a haunting thing. I don't know. But it sounds great. The next one is released on January 25th, and this is called Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. It's described as Titanic meets The Shining. So I'm intrigued. It's a sci-fi horror novel. It says a ghost ship, a salvage crew, unspeakable horrors. We're just getting little nips so far. Very interesting. So we're following Claire, and she's days away from being unemployed. Oh, it's not a regular ship. It's a ship in space. That confused me the first time too. Okay, so they're in space. They're on the last leg of their voyage, whatever they're doing. She gets a distress signal from this other ship that's in close proximity. So her and her crew are like, okay, we got nothing to lose. We're about to be unemployed anyway. Let's go check it out. And what they find is a famous luxury cruise liner spaceship that disappeared on its maiden voyage over 20 years earlier. So they're interested, but as soon as they approach it, something seems really off. Oh, it says there's whispers in the dark, flickers of movement, words scrawled in blood. Claire must fight to hold on to her sanity and find out what really happened to the Aurora before she and her crew made the same ghastly fate. Okay? Yeah. I want to read this. I don't know what I've never heard of this author. I wonder if it's a debut. I don't know. The next release comes out on the same day, January 25th. And this is called Notes on an Execution by Danya Kukavka. This one seems like it is also kind of a feminist look at serial killers. It says it's an atmospheric work of literary suspense. We're following Ansel Packer. He's scheduled to die in 12 hours. He knows what he's done. He knows that he's going to suffer the same fate as he brought to the girls that he killed. But the way it's told, it's destructing the story of this serial killer. And it's told primarily through the eyes of the women in his life. So we follow his mother, a 17-year-old girl, and a detective. It says it blends breathtaking suspense with astonishing empathy, and it unravels the familiar narrative of the American serial killer, interrogating our system of justice and our cultural obsession with crime stories in general, asking readers to consider the false promise of looking for meaning in the psyches of violent men. I'm in. So now let's get into the books that are coming out in February. Of course, the first one that I am interested in is the new Sarah J. Maas. So it is House of Sky and Breath. It's Crescent City, number dos. So I'm not really going to get into the description of that, but I will tell you, I was hesitant to get into this one because we're used to Sarah J. Maas, we're used to the fairies smut. That's what we want, that's what we need. And when I read the description of this one, it had like angels and devils and all kinds of other interesting characters. I was like, I'm not really interested in reading about that, like, not really. But I can confirm it's still just as good as her other writings. So basically this one we're following Bryce Quinlan, and She had the perfect life. She would party all night, sleep all day, and then her very best friend in the entire world is killed by a demon. But then when the accused person of killing her best friend is in jail and these crimes start happening again, she starts to realize that it's probably not the person responsible for killing her best friend, and then she gets deeper and deeper into the investigation and meets an angel who is like a detective, and it gets spicy, it gets hot, and then there's powers. She's pretty much Selena Sardathian. She's Selena from Throne of Glass. If you've read Throne of Glass, you're gonna love Bryce Quinlan. So I'll just leave it at that, and this is the continuation of that story, and where it left off was a huge cliffhanger. So I cannot wait to read this next book in this series. The next book I'm interested in comes out on February 22nd, and that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I read The Guest List, is that what it's called? And I liked it. It wasn't amazing, it wasn't terrible, but I'm definitely interested in reading more. I haven't read The Hunting Party because I've heard that that wasn't as good, but if I should read it, let me know. But The Paris Apartment sounds really interesting. We're following Jess. She needs a fresh start. She's got a half-brother in Paris, and she's like, maybe I'll just go stay with him. When she gets there, her half-brother Ben is not there, and she finds the apartment is like really nice, and she's like, how the hell could he afford this? This is like lap of luxury type shit in Paris. How can he afford this? And then he's gone, so where did he go? So she's just hanging out in his apartment, and so the longer he's gone, the more she starts to dig into his situation and try to unravel what's going on with his life and how he can afford something like this. And it says that his neighbors are an eclectic bunch, but not necessarily friendly. Like maybe they know something that she doesn't, and she starts to suspect the neighbors. So it says everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling. Good setup. Sounds great. Moving on. The next book comes out on the same day, February 22nd. It's called The Paradox Hotel, and this is by Rob Hart. This is another author that I haven't read before, but this just sounded really interesting to me. And it's kind of in depth. This summary, there's a lot going on, but it all sounds amazing. So it's another locked room murder mystery set in a hotel. But this is a very specific kind of hotel in which really wealthy people come
to travel through time.
So it's a time traveling hotel. Rich people come in. There's a bunch of different time periods they can go to. Then we're following January Cole. She's head of security for this hotel. But something's going on with time space and something's not right. Also, January can see ghosts. Again, I don't know how they're gonna put all this together, but her job's getting harder because they're trying to privatize time travel. So all these trillionaires are in town to like put their bid on time traveling. Meanwhile, there's a blizzard, and so they're all locked into this hotel, and January sees a dead body. But she only knows because it's not actually a body, it's a ghost, and nobody else can see it. So nobody else knows that there's a killer on the loose, and she has to try to figure out, find the killer. Yes. Yes. I mean, yes. Just yes. Okay. All right. Let's move on to March releases that I'm interested in. The first one comes out on March 1st, and it is The Night Shift by Alex Finley. I have not read their last book, Everlast Fear. I heard mixed reviews. Again, if this is something you think I'd be interested in, let me know. But this one caught my eye, so I'm interested in checking it out. It's called Night Shift. It's about a pair of small town murders that happen 15 years apart. So I think we're doing a dual timeline here again. The first murder happens on Y2K, 1999, New Year's Eve. Everyone's expecting chaos. They're expecting elevators to fall down, planes falling from the sky, you know, the world market crashing. And I remember this. I don't know if y'all do. Some of y'all might be a little young, but I remember Y2K. The setting is a Blockbuster video. Yes, childhood memories coming to life. In New Jersey. So there are 4 teenage girls that are working at this Blockbuster that night, and they are attacked, and only one of them survives. 15 years later, the same thing happens at an ice cream shop. 4 people working, they're attacked, 1 survives. The 2 surviving victims both hear their attacker saying the same words, and that is, "Good night, pretty girl."
Run.
That's pretty much all I need to know. Honestly, like, we don't even need to get further into that because we're gonna find out there's a connection between the 2. I think it's the same killer. If not, it's like someone, like a copycat going on. It's connected. So yeah, that's Night Shift. Moving on, the next book I'm interested in is called The Golden Couple, and this comes out on March 8th. This is by Sarah Pekkanen and Greer Hendricks. Again, some of their books I love, some of them I don't so much love, but I'm not gonna miss this. Like they're kind of an auto buy. We're following Avery Chambers. She is this like miracle therapist, but apparently she has controversial methods and so she lost her license. But there's this couple, Marissa and Matthew Bishop, and they seem like this absolute perfect golden couple, but then Marissa cheats and they decide they want to get therapy for the sake of their relationship and for their child. Marissa finds some kind of article about Avery and she decides, even though Avery has lost her license, that she wants the best of the best. So she doesn't care if it's by these controversial methods or what. She wants to make everything right again. So she goes to see them. But when the Bishops go to see Avery and Marissa reveals her infidelity, all three are set out on a collision course. The biggest secrets in the room are still hidden. And it's no longer simply a marriage that's in danger. So maybe she has something to do with this couple. Maybe he cheated too with Avery. That's just my like off the wall guess. And they try to kill each other. I don't know, but that's just my guess. You want to come up, buddy? Come on. Oh, okay. I meant not up on me, but on the couch. Thank you though. Thank you. The next book I want to read, it comes out on March 15th, and that is 9 Lives. It's the new Peter Swanson novel. Very interested in this. This one is a story about these 9 strangers. They all receive a list of names, including their own name, and then they realize that these people are starting to get killed off. There's an FBI agent, Jessica Winslow, whose name is also on the list. They can't find anything in common. They have all different occupations. They live in all different places. They don't know what's going on. But this FBI agent, Jessica Winslow, she's determined to find out. So yeah, that's basically it. This is definitely giving me like Agatha Christie vibes, kind of. What is, And Then There Were None. This is giving me And Then There Were None vibes. So, don't know what that's about, but I'm interested to see if this lives up to the hype as well. The next book I'm interested in also comes out on March 15th, and that is a book of cold cases by Simone St. James. Now, I've yet to read anything by Simone St. James, but I will be reading The Sundown Motel probably this month, so I'm already invested. Like, I've heard so many good things about Simone St. James. She also has The Broken Girls, I think it is. Yeah, The Broken Girls, that has a lot of praise. So, you know, I'm just going into this author blind, and it's about a true crime blogger. So, hi. We have 2 timelines, which I am beginning to feel like is kind of a staple for Simone St. James. The first one is in 1977 in Clear Lake, Oregon. There were 2 men that were murdered with the same gun. They had really strange notes that were left behind. Beth Greer was the suspect of this crime. She was seen fleeing the scene, but she gets acquitted. And apparently she's really rich. And after she's acquitted, she just lives the rest of her life kind of alone in her mansion. Then we have 2017, and we're following Shay Collins. She's the receptionist. She's a true crime blogger. She got interested in true crime because she escaped an attempted kidnapping when she was a kid. So that kind of piqued her interest in true crime. She meets Beth by chance and just randomly, hopefully asks her for an interview, and Beth agrees. So in 2017, we're following this timeline where they are together and she meets Beth at her mansion to get this interview. This is giving me the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo vibes, because we have the young ingenue, we have the older rich woman who has the stories of her past. But while Shay is interviewing Beth in her mansion, she thinks she sees somebody looking in the window or things moving out of the corner of her eye, and she's like, what the hell's going on here? So is this a haunted story as well? I don't know. But she knows something's not right. Like, something's not right with Beth, with this mansion, and she doesn't know if she's being completely manipulated and that Beth actually is this murderer, but she's trying to get the details from Beth to figure out this true crime case. So, sounds really good. Okay, I only have 2 left, so we're getting to the end. Hang in there, we're almost there. The next one I'm interested in is The Long Weekend by Gilly McMillan, or Jilly McMillan. I'm not sure how you say that. This is another isolated setting thriller. So we're following this group of women, and they are heading to a retreat at Darkfell Barn, and it's supposed to be a perfectly isolated retreat. There is no cell phone service. Of course, there's no interaction with the outside world. Their husbands are reportedly, supposedly meeting them the day after, but they're going a day early to get their girl time in. So this cast of characters, let's see, there's ex-army Jane, who's hardened and serious, but also damaged. Ruth, the driven doctor and new mother who is battling demons of her own, and young Emily, who's just wed and insecure. She is the newest addition to their group, and for the first time this year they're missing their friend Edie, who was the glue that held them all together until her husband died suddenly. They hope this is going to be a relaxing break, but as soon as they get there, they find a note that says that one of their husbands is going to be murdered. And of course, they can't contact any of their husbands because there's no service, there's no cell service, there's none of that. Apparently, these women all have secrets of their own and they start to turn on each other. It gets ugly and things are coming to light. Anyway, all right, the last book that I'm interested in March, comes out on March 29th, is The Resting Place by Camilla Stein. This one I was interested in because I liked Alice Feeney's Rock, Paper, Scissors so much. And this is another one that's involving that same trope of face blindness or prosopagnosia. We're following Eleanor. She walks in on the scene of her grandmother's murder and comes face to face with the killer. But she has face blindness, so she has no idea who the killer actually is. Apparently, her grandmother was super cruel, and Eleanor spends her days after that just terrified. Can you imagine coming face to face with the killer and not knowing who it is, thinking that they could be anyone, anywhere, and you have no idea? Apparently, this faceless face is infiltrating her dreams, her sleep life, her waking life, everything, until she can't tell the difference between them anymore. And then she finds out that she's inherited this house from her grandmother, which has housed a dark past for over 50 years. So she goes there with her boyfriend and her reckless aunt, and they go into this house of secrets looking for answers. But as they get closer to bringing the truth to light, they'll wish they had never come to disturb what rests there. So that's that one. Again, very excited to look into it. And there are some really big names coming up in 2022, y'all, for the rest of the year that are releasing new books that I'm really excited for. So I'm going to do one of these for every quarter of 2022. And so if you're interested in hearing about those, go ahead and subscribe now, and we will get to those when the time comes. So until then, don't forget that life is short, so read Riley. Cheers, y'all, and goodbye.